Hey everyone, welcome to my channel, The Mondesir Critique. In today's video, I am going to be reviewing the new movie Till, which was directed by Chinonye Chukwu and stars Danielle Deadwyler, Jalyn Hall, Sean Patrick Thomas, Whoopi Goldberg, Bennett, and many more. The movie follows Mamie Till Mobley, the mother of Emmett Till, who of course was the 14-year-old boy who was lynched by demonic white men, all because he dared speak to a demonic white woman beyond saying the words yes ma'am or no ma'am. The movie smartly avoids sensationalizing his murder, opting to instead show him as he truly was, a sunny, sunshiny boy with a great smile, huge personality, and great confidence in himself. It focused on how close Emmett and Mamie were, only heightening the cruelty of him being taken away from her so quickly, so harshly. For anyone afraid of seeing this out of fear that it would be filled with the violence of his murder and, it being like full of trauma porn, rest assured the lynching does take place off camera, though you do see a few shots of his mutilated body after the fact, and it's obviously pretty disturbing to look at. But I do want to prepare anyone who is gonna see that scene is in there. But Till is a pretty good film. To my knowledge, it's the first feature-length movie solely dedicated to Emmett and Mamie, and it is great to finally see a movie focus on them and this important woman in America's history and her fight for Emmett's justice. Too often when we hear about these heinous, racist historical moments like what happened to Emmett, I feel like we tend to see it as an event. And, rarely do we think about the people who were close to this horror and how they coped. We don't always hear about who they were before, how they coped during and after the event. They're just kind of become footnotes in history. But we know that Mamie bravely allowed the press to photograph Emmett after his murder, which, again brought the evil of racism right to the forefront of white people's minds at that time. But I feel like the rest of her life was unknown really to the general public. And I love seeing how she was before her baby was taken from her. She was a loving mother, so strong-willed, and honestly, she seemed like kind of really cool the way Deadwyler portrayed her. She just seemed to ooze this elegance and grace and confidence in herself, and it came through in the way Danielle played her. And even after his murder, I appreciated how we got to see anger unfiltered from her. I love the admission that she wasn't this, big activist in the civil rights movement ahead of Emmett's murder when racism came knocking on her own door. And I love that we got to see her trying to process, his murder and understand why his extended family in Mississippi couldn't or wouldn't save Emmett from those monsters. The movie does fall in line with, typical biopics, unfortunately. It's a bit, paint by numbers, without too many interesting or compelling shots or, cinematography. But it offered, a few more details to this well-known lynching that I think most people didn't know before. And I will say it's a pretty good script, in my opinion. I am not certain which words Mamie Till spoke in the movie that were verbatim from her mouth and which were made up by the writers, but her scenes were also just very good and well written. Mamie's tongue was sharp in this movie, and she wielded it so well to defend and protect her son's legacy. But above all else, this was truly a great vehicle to showcase Danielle Deadwyler's talent. From the beginning of the movie, Mamie is so terrified to send Emmett to Mississippi because she knew how deeply racist white people were in the South. They were racist in Chicago too, where she and Emmett lived, but they were exponentially more racist in the Deep South, clearly. And from the first scene, we see how deeply anxious and scared she is to send him off. We saw how Emmett was not only her son, but her true companion in life. We saw how strong she was, how she took on the white media and a white justice system virtually on her own in some parts. Danielle Deadwyler does this beautiful line reading in one scene. I think the line is, "My son is not a case." And it comes out of her mouth. She says it so beautifully. And it's layered. Like, you hear her kind of impatience in that moment, kind of her anger and how tense she feels. And she's also trying not to blow up on this man. He's like an NAACP, I think, representative or lawyer or something like that, who very obviously is already trying to make her and Emmett, you know, the next big thing for the civil rights movement. And at that point, Mamie just wants to find her son. Because I think at that time she thinks he's just been kidnapped. It was just a beautiful line reading. Like, she just conveys so much in the way that she said it. And it made me sit up. Like, she's very good in this. She just commanded every scene. And it would not be a surprise at all to me if she got an Oscar nomination for this. And Jalyn Hall was great as Till as well. You know, everything I heard about him talked about how big of a personality Emmett had and how much he enjoyed making everyone laugh, and Jalyn nailed every scene. It's interesting, I did find myself thinking at one point that this is too simple of a movie, you know, it doesn't feel revelatory enough, you know, because I kind of knew a lot of these details already. But as I was thinking about it, I realized that the movie had to be simple and straightforward because that's how the actual events played out in real life. A loving mother sent her young son to visit relatives in Mississippi, where he was lynched for absolutely no reason at all. And she fought for his murderers to be brought to justice. But when Caroline Bryant tapped into her nasty spirit and used her nasty teeth to defame Emmett Till's character, she knew that those men would not go to jail. And she just spent the rest of her life fighting for civil rights. And that was it. She knew there'd be no justice, and that was it. Even the law remained the same at the time of his death. The Emmett Till Anti-Lynching Act passed this year in 2022. He was killed in 1955. It's just all wrong how simple this whole thing played out. I definitely recommend Till. If you're well versed in Emmett's story, no, you're not gonna learn, you know, wellspring of new information. But I know Mamie's family was involved in the making of this movie, and it is a well done biographical film that I truly recommend supporting. And that is the Mondesir critique. I'll see you guys later.